Hello and welcome to the Cake Sugar Summit. This is our Sugar Success Stories edition. This is where we profile ordinary individuals who've done the extraordinary thing of breaking up with sugar and falling in love with and leveraging the healing power of whole foods. These individuals have reversed diabetes, obesity, depression, and all kinds of issues in body and mind, and have moved forward into lives that are happier and healthier. They're here to share what worked for them in the hopes that they will help you join us on walking the path of recovery and leaving behind the pain of addiction. We hope you enjoy these interviews. We hope they change your life.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us again. And I'm pleased to introduce you to Anna Freeling. Hello, Anna.
Hi, thanks for having me, Aimee.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I want to tell the people all about you, and then I'll let you tell us all about yourself and your story and your journey. So Anna Freeling, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. The spelling doesn't look like that. If you
the first vowel does the walking, the second vowel does the talking. That's how my husband explained it to me.
Yeah, I always wanted to say Anna Fräulein, okay, but it's Freeling, and yeah. She's a sugar addiction specialist. She's a certified primal health coach and high performance coach. She's a sugar, SUGAR, we're going to talk about that, certified and licensed to screen for sugar starch addiction through Bitten Johnson, which I just had the privilege of interviewing her, and she's on our summit as well. And Anna is a member of Bitten's staff. She helps others recover from sugar addiction at SUGARx Global through their subscription recovery community and their 9-week recovery accelerator program. She's the author of the book An Altered Spirit, The 12 Steps and Ebenezer Scrooge. I'm interested in knowing about that, especially because of Ebenezer Scrooge, and has been clean for 32 years. She's an advocate for removing the stigma of addiction and educating about AID, addiction interactive disorder. Awesome. So Anna, let's take you back in time and give us your story of what it was like being in sugar. I know it started as a child, and how that was a gateway drug, and it led into drugs, and then how you got out of it, and now you're just a bright, shining example in helping people to recover.
Well, I want to say something about addiction to preface this, because if you don't believe in addiction and you don't believe it's real, then what I say to you is going to be meaningless. And so, I was watching a reel on Instagram the other day, and it was a Muslim woman, and she had her hair covered, but she was completely scarred. You know how some of these women, their brother will pour gasoline on them or whatever and light a match. That's what happened to her. And she had on lipstick, and her eye was all white, and she was winking, and she was like kissing the camera. And I thought, you can see her scars because someone poured gasoline on her, and you can actually see the skin, which is an organ. And we forget the skin is an organ, but it's your body's largest organ. And you could see her organ of her skin was burned. And what I loved was she recovered from that, right? Because she was like, you know what, you can pour gasoline on me and you can burn my outsides, but you cannot rob my insides. And so we have this other organ, the brain, and we oftentimes think of the brain as some kind of ephemera, like it's this floaty thing, and thought bubbles, right? Like we don't think this is a chemical, biological, this is such an important organ that it takes up 20% of the calories we eat just to sustain its life. And so we get scars in our limbic system, in our brain's reward system, or rewiring, as Bitten Johnson talks about them. And because we can't see them, we keep thinking, oh, is it willpower? Oh, what's wrong with me? Why can't I, so I always say, if you had a broken arm, what would you do? Well, I would go to the ER. Right. But we have this scarred up, broken brain, and somehow we get guilt and shame, and we become scared to go get help and say, help me, I need help. So my story starts, pretty young. When I did the sugar, which is the assessment tool Bitt & Johnson created to help assess for sugar addiction. We can't diagnose sugar addiction because it's not a diagnosis, but I believe that will change. And so when I did that with her, my first memory of having a desire that was overwhelming, a compulsion to have sugar that was overwhelming to me, I was 3 years old, and I hadn't thought of it, I'll bet, in years. And I had kind of thought of it jokingly, in passing before. I climbed up on the counter in San Francisco, California, and I can see the dust in the sunlight kind of memory. I climbed up on the counter looking over my shoulder. Oh my gosh, is my mom going to catch me, to get Johnson's Baby aspirin, because they tasted like Smarties, and I knew they were medicine. So something in me said, don't have more than 3, but I had to have them. And I ate those Johnson Baby aspirin. And so by the time I was about 10 years old, I was using drugs sporadically. I was raised in the Bay Area. All the big brothers and sisters in the neighborhood were like, oh, it's fun to get the little kids stoned kind of thing. It was the 70s, So by 1979, I'm in high school and I am a full-blown addict. And my drug of choice was yours. If you gave it to me, Aimee, I didn't ask questions. Was it going to make me go, was it going to numb me out? Give it to me. I'll take it. And so one day I did that. I took something and I was at school and I walked down the street. I walked out of my class and I walked down the street and I couldn't move. And I didn't know what was wrong, but I was like, I got to stop. And I didn't do it on purpose, but I laid my head down on a railroad track and I watched a train coming towards my head. And I thought, oh my God, this train is going to crush my skull. And I couldn't move. And I found out that joint that I smoked was laced with PCP, which is a dissociative drug. And so I'm laying there on something I didn't know I was on. And this man just comes and lifts me off the tracks. And he wrote me a poem that day. And I swear to God, I still have that poem. And he could have done anything to me, Aimee. And he didn't. He got me on a bus and he rode all the way home with me. And he made sure I got home safe. And I had more experiences like that. So when I was 17, I went to a meeting and I did what my coworker Dave calls switching seats on the Titanic. The ship is still sinking, but I'm going down. So at this point I had been kicked out of high school in the 9th grade, obviously. I had gotten my California high school proficiency exam and I was going to Peninsula Continuation High School in the Bay Area. And my mom was like, honey, you're so good with makeup and hair. Maybe you should go to beauty school, because she was worried to death about me. I would be gone for 3 days. This is before cell phones, and tracking devices and stuff. She had no idea where I was, and I would be, like in Mill Valley from south of San Francisco, like an hour drive, and be there for 3 days with older people, doing God knows what, drugs and rock and roll and, all that stuff. And so I felt like something was wrong, but I had never heard addiction. And it seemed like a lot of people were like me in the Bay Area back then, and of course, like attracts like, so it seemed normal to me, and so I said, okay. And I moved to Nebraska having no idea what withdrawals were going to be like or anything else. I turned 17 like 2 days after I got to Nebraska. And my aunt, she was like, I came without a set of instructions. She's like, you need help. She got me to the counselor. The counselor was like, you're going to a meeting. And I went to this meeting and I met my next drug of choice, who was my ex-husband. And he was 13 years older than me. And I stayed clean for about maybe 18 months. And then I started using again. And I left to California with him without telling anybody I was going, and it was during my 18 months clean that I took off. And so now my mom didn't know where I was even on God's green earth, right? I left with this guy 13 years older than me, ended up homeless in Los Angeles for a little bit. And I was literally pregnant at 18 and shaking oranges off of trees to survive, Well, then he got a job in the oil fields in Bakersfield, and this came up on after my sugar, after my sugar, I remembered, because now I didn't want to use because I was pregnant and I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know how to ask for help because I didn't have that kind of humility. The shame was too deep. Something was wrong with me. It was my fault I was in this situation. It wasn't the scar tissue in my brain, right? I didn't know anything about this. Right. And so the shame kept me from help. The shame and the guilt kept me from receiving the help I needed. And that's a shame. And that's why the stigma of the disease of addiction has to go. It has to go. This is not something people choose. Trust me, I did not choose to do what I did. My brain was hooked from early and chronic exposure to sugars. I have a very sensitive brain, and my brain is hardwired for survival. And I'm probably the reason some of the human race is alive, because I would have gotten up and gone and hunted, and I would have had sex and had babies, and here we are, right? So my ancestors probably had special brains too, and so I'm sitting there, I'm alone, I'm depressed. My ex-husband is out banging dope. I go into my kitchen cabinet and I find a big old bag, those plastic sacks of powdered sugar. I mixed it with water, knowing there's a question on the sugar about, did you eat too much sugar even though you knew it wasn't good for your baby during your pregnancy? Yes, I did. I mixed water with 1 pound bag of powdered sugar and I ate it out of the bag. And I'm talking, I squished it out of the bag when it got to, there wasn't enough for me. And I felt guilt and shame, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I am telling you, if you are listening to me and you're out there and this is resonating with you at all, you are my people, okay? I don't care about harmful users that can moderate. One is too many for you, you guys. One is too many. I cannot have a lick, a taste, a nibble of anything like that. And Aimee and I were talking before that reward center fires up. I'm very careful with labels. I also have celiac. I bought a spice that had sugar in it, but I didn't see sugar. It was like that An Evening in Paris thing where it has in twice and you miss the word. It was like that, and it was so small. And I put this seasoning on my fish, and that night we're all sitting there eating and I eat one bite and I'm like, something's wrong. I felt weird. I took the second bite and it was like, and I got up and I read the label and sure enough, sugar was in there. So I threw out the spice and I didn't eat the rest of my fish, because that's how careful I have to be. There is how much sugar is safe for an addict? How much heroin is safe for an addict? How much beer is safe for an addict? None. The answer is 0. So that's my story, and that's my belief about addiction is it's physical. It is a physical spot in your brain. And once that rewiring is done, it doesn't go away. But thank God we have over, 600 billion neurons in our head, right? In our brain. So we can rewire, we can learn a new way to live, but we have to stop. Every time you eat sugar, it's like an assault on that part of your brain. So if you have an open wound and you keep cutting the wound open, do you think it's going to heal? It's not going to heal. Right. We have to stop hitting it. We have to stop getting that hit. And that means, sorry, sugar addicts, you can't do any psychoactive substances because your addiction doesn't care what it is. It's one disease with many, many outlets. And that's what addiction interactive disorder is. And until you deal with, hey, I have a brain that I need to let it heal. I need to get the scar tissue, right? So the lady on Instagram, she didn't just have scar tissue. She probably had skin grafts. She had all kinds of things happen so that she could heal. But she didn't keep burning herself, to heal. And that's what eating that food does, where we keep burning ourselves. We keep the damage alive. And so there's also process addictions. All of a sudden, ooh, let me see who said what on Facebook, right? Oh, Amazon, I need something. I need a new book. So that's my story
Wait,
in a
and you're
nutshell.
getting a little personal here with the phone and Amazon. We're gonna stick with sugar. I'm just kidding. My husband and I have a little game that we order so much from Amazon. It's just easier, right? You don't have to go to the store because then I get distracted and I buy other things at the store. But I said, we don't even know. We have the packages and we try to guess what's inside. What did you buy 2 days ago? I don't remember. I said, you know what we should do? We should have a jar, and every time we don't remember what we bought, we put $1 in the jar, because we have to be aware of, I mean, this relates to eating, of what we put in our mouth, you know, what we're spending, what we're doing with our lives and our resources. I love what you said, that in my journey, I've been sugar-free for 4.5 years, and I've had so many people say, well, it's just a little, like, can't you have a little? And I said, would you ever offer a drink to an alcoholic? No, that's what it's like if you offer that to me. And we take in foreign exchange students here I live in San Diego. And so there's a lot of English schools. So these kids, I call them all kids, you know, they're in their 20s. He's like, Aimee, can't you just have a little bit? I said, Summer, what if I made you a pan of brownies and I put just a little dog poop? It's just like a little. Would you eat it? Like, of course not. And I said, that's what it's like. It's poison. It's dangerous. It's bad for my body. Maybe you can have it, but my body and my brain acts differently. And I love what Florence says, like, we're the lucky ones. We're the lucky ones that we understand that our brains are wired like this. And I appreciate so much, Anna, that you said that it's not our fault, because, oh my goodness, how many years did I beat myself up? I'm a glutton. I did say I'm a sugar addict. I can't get off. I don't have any willpower. I'm not strong enough. The cookie has more power over me than I do. But it's once we stop eating the DAMN stuff is when we start to heal.
Right. And then if you mistake it that the sugar was now the problem. Now the sugar started the problem, but now the sugar is not the problem. So that's why, you know, Bitten talks about it only being like 5%. Your food plan is like 5% of your recovery. So a lot of times then we feel like, oh, I don't have cravings, I'm fine. And then something happens out of nowhere, like my friend Judy's, I call it her 80-pound cheese curl, where she takes one bite of a cheese curl after however many years of abstinence. And it's 13 years later and 80 pounds later, you know, that she finally can stop. Just because you've stopped doesn't mean you're cured. See, this is a progressive and chronic illness. And so it's constantly going to look for an outlet. And so if you don't treat your illness, so say you had a malignant tumor and you could go into remission if you took your treatment, you would take your treatment. Right. But we still think, oh, well, I have control over this spot in my brain. No, you don't. And it changes its voice. It's like, Anna, one bite won't hurt you. Just have a little nibble. Just taste it while nobody's looking, and then just act like you didn't do it. You know, it'll say that to you out of the blue, and you're like, what? Even Bitten talks about going through menopause and getting up to her eyeballs in chocolate. And knowing and doing are two different things. We can't think our way out of the disease of addiction. We have to act our way. We have to be in action and have a practice that protects us. And the practice is all about growth. And that's what everybody is talking about doing anyway. So do it, you know, and have fun and grow up and grow deep and grow wide and grow interesting and grow interested in other people instead of food 24/7 or whatever your current thing of choice is.
Yes, I like to tell my clients when they're afraid to go in public or be at a party or a gathering or something, I'm afraid because they're gonna have my favorite food. And I'm like, get your focus. Everybody's focus right now is on the food, their plate, right? Their head is down and they're just like devouring this food. But you raise your head and start looking at these beautiful people around you and start asking questions about them and their lives and get the focus off of that food that's in front of you. What did I want to say? There was a thought I had. It'll come back to me. It'll come back.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about my book then while you're, thinking about it.
Yes.
So this is my book, and it's really a booklet, and it's not an advice book, and it's not, this is what you should do. This is a book designed to take you through what happened to Ebenezer Scrooge and why is that important to you, and how does that relate to these 12 steps that seem like this mystery thing to a lot of people, and this like, but the 12 steps are a transformational tool that is amazing to use. And so a lot of people are like, they don't want to admit powerlessness. Well, I'm not. It says we were powerless. It doesn't say I am powerless. I am powerless once I put that first cheese curl in my mouth, like Judy, right? She lost her power after that. She had a choice whether or not to eat that first bite. And that's why we have to know what is that limbic system, or red dog is what Bitten likes to call it. And I call it KFUCK radio, because it's out to do that to you all day long. And so I'm just going to read you just a little teeny part of this book. And it's really about when Marley talks to Scrooge and comes and warns Scrooge, there's a chance and a hope that you can escape my fate. And this consists of him being visited by 3 ghosts, which Scrooge says, I'd rather not. And then Marley says, you don't have a choice. And he says, well, can I take them all at once and get it over with? And that's kind of how we feel, right? We just want to hurry up and get to this, like some kind of arbitrary finish line. Well, there is no finish line. Tomorrow never comes, and yesterday is gone. They're both kind of imaginary places. And we can't change what we did yesterday. But right now, if I learn to live in the here and now, I have some agency. Oh my gosh. So I'm not powerless, because right now I can make a decision to do something or not. So I just want to read this part because I think addiction is a thief. And so this is kind of about that. It is said that in addiction, we lose our capacity to feel human. We also lose the ability to love and be loved. And the ghost says this: strange to have forgotten it for so many years, observed the ghost. Isn't it strange to allow the thing we fixed on to rob us of our joy and hope, extinguishing the light with the cap? At first, the thing we fixed on brings us relief. We love it and we do it as often as we can. Soon we lose the ability to stop doing it, even when it no longer provides us with the relief it once did. We lie to do it, we cheat and steal to do it, and we torpedo relationships to do it. The promise of relief from our pain and emptiness calls us back like the sirens in the Odyssey. We are powerless. Now we are no longer doing the thing is doing us. We've lost our choice. We use no matter the cost. Our lives have become unmanageable. Scrooge felt apart from, isolated, alienated, alone. He saw the shadow of the things that have been and felt pity for himself. And so that's just kind of like, it's an observation of what Scrooge went through, because his master passion was gain and getting more. And I think the disease of addiction is more, different, better, and it steals our ability to be content with the here and now and with what we've got. And one practice that I have is, I think to myself every night, if I was only going to get to keep what I was grateful for today, what would I wake up with tomorrow? And boy, does that streamline your gratitude list. Amazon's not on the list. Sorry, Aimee. It's not on the list.
Yeah. Say that again. If I could only keep.
And that's not mine, but I'm telling you what, be a beggar. Be a beggar. To recover, you need to be a beggar, and you need to glean whatever wisdom you can from whoever you can and start utilizing it in your life. So I don't even know where I heard this, but it was, if I was only going to wake up tomorrow with what I was grateful for today, what would I wake up with? That's a very deep gratitude question.
So beautiful. Yeah.
And so toilet paper is always on the list.
During the pandemic, yes. I remembered what I was going to talk to you about, because you brought it up in reading those few lines. And I don't want to hone in on our slips. When you mentioned that Bitten, got into chocolate in menopause, maybe she had been free from, away from sugar for a long time, and also alcohol. And then I don't want to talk about our slips so much because I want to rejoice for my 4.5 years of recovery. But I did have a slip for about 3 days at Christmas time, and I made cookies. I was a baker, and I still bake for people, not as much, but for family and special occasions. And I made gluten-free Christmas cookies, and they were the little ones the size of a quarter, because I did the rollout, cut out, and then to not have to roll out, you use the little tiny ones. And I thought, well, I want to taste. It's been almost 2 years that I've been sugar-free. I wonder how the gluten-free tastes. We call it the gremlin or the sugar dragon in your mind. Oh, go ahead and try it. It probably doesn't taste that good. And so I had a few. And then the next day I had some with frosting. And the third day I had more. And at 9 o'clock at night, as I'm putting them away in a Tupperware, my husband's like, I'm going to bed, honey. And I said, okay, I'll be right up. And I munched them really fast. It was gingerbread and a sugar cookie. And I ate like 3 a day, right? It didn't turn into an 80-pound cheese puff. That's so funny. But I was hiding it, and I was chewing because I didn't want my husband to kiss me goodnight and taste cookie, gingerbread on my mouth. And I was ashamed, and that stopped me dead in my tracks. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the exact same behavior that I did before when I was totally into the sugar, hiding candy bar wrappers like really low in the trash can, as if my body didn't lie. My body was obviously a Milky Way candy bar and a cookie body, all the fat on it and bloating and feeling horrible. But let's talk about, in addiction, the sneaking and lying and hiding and the shame in it, because I think that's an important part to recognize. Oh, I do that.
Yeah, it's the difference between a harmful user who says, wow, I've really been eating too much, I need to push myself away from the table, and an addict who says, I can't stop eating. And so there's a clip from believe it or not, Austin Powers, international spy or whatever, international man of mystery, whatever he calls himself, where Fat Bastard talks about not being able to stop eating. And when I first watched that movie, I laughed. And I thought about that clip just like, I don't know, just like out of the corner of my mind about a year ago. And I looked it up, and of course you can find anything on YouTube. And I watched that clip, and I literally had to get a bunch of Kleenex because I was sobbing, because Fat Bastard was talking about the shame and the guilt and the isolation and the alienation of the disease of addiction and the inability to stop using even when you want to use. And that's probably what tripped your memory, was when I said, you are no longer using the thing is using you. Yeah. When you lose your choice, when you're walking to the aisle to get your drug food and you're going, don't do it, you shouldn't be doing this. Oh my God, why are you doing this again? What's the matter with you? You can't stop. And you put the box in your hand and you're still saying this, and you're like, oh my God, why did I do this? And then you're in the car and you're like, oh, I'll just have one. I bought them anyway. I'll just have one, and then I'll throw them out. And then before you get home, the whole box, bag, or package or whatever is gone, and you're stopping to get more somewhere, right? Because that wasn't enough. Because addiction will never be satiated. It will never, ever be enough. And we're hardwired for that. And I want people to understand that we are in an artificial environment than we're supposed to be in. Hunter and gatherer, we would have been prized for our willingness to go to the grocery store, right? I'll go pick the berries. I got them. Got it. Sign me up. I'll volunteer for the hard work so I can eat something, right? And not very many people know this, but the tip of our tongue where we taste sweetness, sweet is one of the safest things we can eat. And so we ding, 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 colostrum, the first taste of food for a baby is sweet, because that reward center helps us eat, right? What do they give baby boys before they circumcise them? Squish some glucose in their mouth. Their mind's going ding, 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 ding. And they don't even feel it when they get that foreskin snipped off. I mean, for God's sake, sugar's a drug, people. Don't think that it's not. It's white and it's powder, and so is flour and all of these things, right? So this reward center, you know, when you come across a ripe fruit, and of course fruit has changed, it's not the same as it was. A banana was like this big and it was so full of seeds, and it was probably so like starchy that it stuck to your teeth like a green banana, not like what these ripe, creamy, you know, floral tasting. Yeah, well, what about apples the size of my head or my right butt cheek now, right? I mean, they're just like
or strawberry that you can hold in your hand, you know,
yes.
Strawberry that.
All of this stuff has been manufactured and bred to contain more sugar and be more hyper palatable. So our tongue tastes that sweet and we're like, ding, 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 ding. Oh, you know, and our body doesn't know that we have a grocery store full. It doesn't know that there's 24/7. Our brain reward center has not evolved to understand that we have all of this food available. We're designed to store fat for times of lean, and times of lean never come. And so some of us have a very sensitive reward center, and that rewiring takes place more quickly. And I think it's getting worse for people because 70% of the foods people eat in America, and this was a study done from age 1 now, are ultra processed foods. We're talking about soda pop, Slurpees, you know, Pop-Tarts, and we're feeding kids Pop-Tarts in school and calling them healthy whole grains. On what planet? On what planet is is 2 Pop-Tarts with 70 grams of carbohydrates? On what planet is that healthy for a person? We can hold 1 teaspoon of sugar in 5 quarts of blood, okay? 70 grams of carbohydrate. And I don't care, people can, you know, say, oh, you don't know your science, whatever. A carb is a carb. It all breaks down simple sugar. There's 4 grams of carbs in a teaspoon. Do the math. That's almost 20 grams of carbohydrate.
20 teaspoons?
Or 20 teaspoons of sugar. Yeah, it's about 18 teaspoons of sugar. That's what your blood and your body knows. And so we have our blood sugar swing up. Then here comes our insulin to save our lives and keep homeostasis. And then here's our blood sugar, and here's our blood sugar, right? This is where it's supposed to be, and now this is where it is. And what happens? We get hangry, right? Now we have to eat. And why are we eating? We're eating for so many different reasons. The dopamine reward center, the leptin, the ghrelin, all these hormones are out of whack. Our body and our brain is broken, like you were talking about. And so we eat against our will because our brain is like, no, don't do this to me. I can't, I need it. I can't, hello. Okay. So if you quit heroin, what's going to happen to you? You're going to be sick for a little bit. Mm-hmm. If you quit sugar, you might be really sick for a minute. You just might be really sick for a minute. And I would say that for those of you that have known physical ailments that are caused by sugar, like type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, you're on medication for some of these things, you're on medication for high blood pressure, make sure that you inform your doctor, I'm going to quit sugar. You don't need their permission to quit sugar. You just tell them, I'm going to quit sugar, so can you help me with my meds?
Yes.
How often should I check my blood pressure? When my blood sugar reaches a certain point, what do I lower my insulin to? What do I do? Help, because I'm not going to put sugar in my body, even if it feels like it's going to kill me. Just for today, I'm not going to do it. And you know what? When that's passed, if you go through the physical withdrawal once, you never have to go through it again. You don't have to do it again.
Right. Yes. I remember, besides that little cookie slip, but the first week that I got off sugar, I cried. Like I had tears streaming down my face. And of course I had the withdrawals because I went out with a big bang the night before. I knew the next day I didn't know I was going to get off sugar for good, but I knew that for 30 days I was going to get off sugar. And I was surprised at how emotional I got that first week. So there definitely are some symptoms of withdrawal that happen when we get off the substance.
Yeah, and I think also grieving, because we're grieving the way of life that we consider normal, right? But we are eating normal. We're eating real, probably single ingredient foods. Most of us that are in the sugar recovery space are eating whole natural foods as close to their natural state, you know, prepared deliciously, maybe combined with each other to make a nice meal. You know, we're enjoying our food for sure, but it's not ding, 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 ding. The 4th of July is going off in the back of our head every time we eat, but we think, I just want to be normal. Right? In this part of our brain, I just want to be like it. Why can't I be like everybody else? Well, everybody else isn't eating normal. They're eating normalized. Sugar is a legal drug and it's socially acceptable. Yes. It's in over 70% of our groceries in a hidden form. And now they're even making new laws. Like, I don't remember, Nick Norwitz actually posted on it on Instagram, about, or not on Instagram, on Twitter, about how, I can't remember if it was date sugar or some kind of, you know, natural sugar that they didn't have to list as an added sugar, but it's still sugar. Sugar is sugar.
Right.
And so they're going to find a way. And just look up, you guys, just Google like ads for Coca-Cola in the 50s and 60s, or ads for sugar. And you'll see things like, Susie just got home from cheerleading. She doesn't need a, you know, energy less snack. She needs sugar to keep going, you know. Or when is it too late to give your baby a soda? If you want them to fit in and be socially acceptable, well then, you know, get them started early. And we wonder why, and we want to judge and moralize people that are putting soda pop in their babies' bottles when their grandparents were probably doing that to their mothers, because there were ads telling you that sugar was a safe, wholesome source of energy. We have to stop judging and moralizing. We have to. If we don't do that, people don't have a chance. Oh my God, I can't believe she's giving her baby soda pop. I would never do that. Oh, well, good for you. Aren't you holier than thou? What I feel like is, oh my God, how sad, you know, that our society believes that sugar is a harmless substance.
Yes. Yes. So I hear you're a really good cook, Anna.
I am.
And your body is so sensitive. Like you said, that the spice you noticed had sugar in it, mm-hmm. and you're celiac.
Yeah.
Do you eat out, or is it just easier to eat in? Like, how do you eat out or eat at somebody else's house? What do you do?
Sometimes I don't. So this weekend I went to a wedding shower, and my family knows I have celiac, but they also know don't do anything special for me. I'm not going to starve over a 2-hour, and it's not about the food for me anymore. And I can say for the past year, I noticed that something switched, right, this past year, where I am so excited to go and see my people. And maybe it was partially COVID that helped me kind of get over this hump, right? People, I just want to eat you up, you know. I want to feast on my people. I want to like get connected and love you and hear what's going on in your life and be excited about you're getting married. Oh my God, you know, this to this man that you love, who adores you, that you've been with for 8 years. It's about time. Let's hear about this, you know. And so they had all this food and none of it was for me, you know. It didn't bother me at all. I just didn't eat. And if I, you know, go to an event, I'll eat before I go. If I know, like, I don't trust that place. There's a couple of local restaurants here in town that know me, and they, you know, they take such precaution. I mean, they wash the flat top, they, you know, get a new utensil. They be careful with Anna. Now they'll joke around with me about it. You sure you don't want any toast? You know, because I live in the Midwest and they think they're funny. And I laugh. I don't care. Yeah. What do I care? You know? they're taking good care of me. So there's places that I go that they take good care of me, but like I'm going to be on the road from here to North Idaho, where my mom lives on a beautiful glacier lake. And I'm going to be driving there, and I'm, on the way, I have food in the car, I'll bring hard-boiled eggs. I'll buy, like, they have these little cheese and meat sandwiches. I'll buy like those pickles you can get in a bag if I want something cool and crunchy in the car or whatever. Because I don't do, like, I eat when I'm hungry. That's my thing. I'm able to do that. Some people need to know they've had enough and know they haven't had too little, like Judy. So she weighs and measures, but even she reviews her food plan, and she actually recently added protein, and she's down like 6 pounds since she added the protein a few months ago without even trying, because you can undereat nutrients and your body will not burn fat. You have to be, you see, we always want it to be about a diet, and what you want is you want to find a food plan that crushes your cravings, absolutely. And then you want to find a tribe. Find a tribe of people, because you want to know how you're going to recover after the 5%. You better find some people that understand what's going on in your brain and where you can support each other. And that's what we're about at SUGARx. And it has been wonderful. We've only been really open as a community for like 3 weeks, and the bonding and the love and the fellowship that's going on there is amazing. And we're encouraging people to get in personal contact with each other. We're not responsible for what goes on when you're away from us, but get together, get to know each other, because you know what? We're all adults. If someone wants to get to know someone else in our group, we're not threatened by that. There are too many starfish to be thrown, as Bitten talks about, right? The starfish thrower story. Well, I can save this one. We can't save them all. We need our people's help. So we talk about each one, teach one. Be generous. Be generous. I mean, we did this 5-day thing. We gave away so much information, it's not even funny. And we didn't care, because we just did it, and we thought, oh, well, if we get 10 people in our group, great. And we even kind of held our breath. Well, we have given them so much that they think they don't need, community or whatever. But it was like, the more we gave away, the more they wanted to be with us. And so we got over 100.
Wow. How do people join this community, Anna?
They can go to SUGARx Global, or just email us at hello@sugarxglobal.com.
Okay.
And it's super easy. We'll help you. And I think we'll be running another 5-day challenge probably sometime in July. And we start our first 9-week accelerated program at the end of June when I get back. And that's just really orderly and lots of practice in a small group. So you get a lot of high touch. So if you really want to like move the needle faster and get like some neurons built up, we're going to put you to the task, because we're about action. In fact, care is our motto, and care is, community or connection, and then action plan or action steps you can take. Recovery protection. We like calling it that because we think relapse is a very negative word, and there's a lot of shame. And there's a lot of abuse that has gone on in 12-step communities over relapse. And so we call it recovery protection. And then education. So we try to bring together under one roof everything a recovering person needs. And I'm going to tell you, sugar and food addiction is harder to get clean and stay clean from than any other addiction, because you don't have to go to the dope man's house.
Right.
But you got to come to the kitchen table, and you want to go to those celebrations. And you have teenagers, and you have family members, you have partners, you have an office to go to, you have
somebody's
well-meaning neighbors bringing you a plate of Christmas cookies.
Yes. Well, Anna, this has been so delightful to spend this time with you. If you could give advice to somebody who's listening, and they're hearing us and they're thinking, well, I think I have a lot of those same behaviors that Aimee and Anna have around food, and specifically around sugar, what advice would you give them?
I would say that it's going to be very tempting for your addict brain to try to find the exact right formula before you make a move and get into action. So you're going to be like, I want to watch the next podcast. I want to watch well, maybe I need to listen to this one before I do something. My advice is don't wait, get started and fail forward. Go ahead and have the 3 days that Aimee talked about, and then be like, when you learn to ride a bike, you fall off, get back on and keep going and don't look back. You know, oh, oops. That's what a relapse is. It's an oops. And an oops wouldn't happen if you weren't trying. So you can't fail unless you try something. So I'm telling you, get into action. And if you want my advice, start with liquid first. If you are drinking a 64 ounce,
yes,
go just like, okay, for the next week, I'm just going to white knuckle it, and you will have to white knuckle it.
yes.
Your red dog is going to be going, oh, give me some, I want my sugar, right?
Creamer in my coffee, right?
Right.
Just beautiful water.
Right. So just get rid of the liquid sugar and then change your breakfast next. Mm-hmm. So next, like, okay, I'm going to stop eating cereal and Pop-Tarts and donuts and pastries and blah, blah, blah. And so then that next week be like, okay, I'm going to eat real food for breakfast.
Yeah.
Go for
bacon and eggs if you eat
that. Have bacon and eggs, have some blue
salad, eat something. Yeah. It's not even breakfast, but consider breakfast.
Right. Eat a leftover piece of chicken, some steak, whatever, and then just build, you know. And if you want to rip the Band-Aid and you're on medications, you make sure you talk to your doctor. And even if you stop drinking that much soda or that kind of thing and you're on medications for diabetes or something, check with your doctor. Go low, slow if you have to. And if you're able to, get into a community, rip the Band-Aid, get in Sugar Bomb in your brain on Facebook. You have to ask to come into that group. Nobody can add you. So if you want in there, just ask and you will, we'll let you in. And then you can start having a community and people to talk to and suggestions and all that stuff. And we don't shame and blame in there. So
beautiful.
That's Bitten Johnson's group. So
wonderful. Anna, how do people find you?
Well, they can find me Anna Freeling, or I don't know what I'm under on Twitter, but I mean, if you type my name in anywhere, I just pop up now. So, and then my book, you can get this on Amazon. And I think right now the audiobook is like $2.99 or something like that. It's literally, you guys, it's like a 67-page book.
So it's on Audible as well?
No, it's not on Audible, not yet anyway. Maybe someday, we'll see, but it just came out. So, but I hope people will read it, and I hope that you'll see that change and hope is possible for any addict. Because one thing I would say is, I don't care how sick you are, I don't care what manifestations of the disease of addiction that you have, it's not your fault. And I believe that anyone can recover from any addiction, no matter what the severity is. And when I say that, I want to remind you that you can't be a little bit pregnant and you can't be a little bit addicted. So we can't compare one manifestation of the disease of addiction to another. There are people that have tried to kill themselves over food addiction, you guys, you know, that have gotten suicidal from food addiction or have died. One toe goes, then it's, below the knee amputation, then above the knee amputation, then they're blind, and then they're dead because they can't stop eating the sugar. I had a friend that died that way 2 years ago, and she knew I could help her. And she wasn't even 50 years old, and she still had kids at home. This is a deadly disease. It's a serious chronic illness. So as much as I've joked around, it is a life-threatening condition, and it is an illness, and it is a physical in nature. Your neurons that fire together, wire together, and you have a wiring problem in your brain. And that's not going to go away, but you can arrest those symptoms that happen because of it. And you have to go through it, and you have to grow through it, and you can do it. And failures are they're nothing. They're not links in an unbreakable chain, which is why I wrote this book, because Marley was like, do you want to get rid of those chains? Do you want to get rid of the chains? You could do it.
So good, Anna. Thank you so much for being here and being an inspiration and just giving hope to people that they can break free. And thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this interview. And if you're seeking additional support, we have something really special this year with the summit. Every year, we put together a digital package of all the interviews that people can listen to again and again, or catch the speakers that they may have missed. But this year, we're also doing 2 additional special things to support you. One, we are going to include an ebook that will summarize the journey of recovery for each one of our speakers. They wrote it themselves, it's in their own words. And they also kept a 3-day diary. And they're going to share exactly what they do every day, from sunup to sundown, what they eat, when they eat, how much they eat, what their self-care routines are. And then at the end of each one of these speakers' contributions to this ebook, they're going to leave with you the top 10 strategies that they used to get sugar-free and stay sugar-free that they hope will be helpful to you. Plus, on top of the ebook, you're also going to have access to a weekly drop-in group coaching call with Aimee every week for the entire year. So you have lots of wonderful resources in this package this year, and I wanted to be sure that you knew that was available to you. The link to sign up is on our website. All right, may you be encouraged by these interviews. May you know that it is so much better on the other side of sugar and that you can do this. We'll see you in the next interview.